Does free will exist? Like arguments about whether the outside world exists or is a construct of the mind, both are scientifically unprovable either way. They are philosophical cul-de-sac. Proponents of the no free will hypothesis are locked into a mental prison of their own making. They are predetermined to believe that there is no free will. They are predetermined to convince others that there is no free will. Those people, in turn, are predetermined to believe they do, in fact, have free will. Each debate is reduced to a tiresome pantomime or puppet show. Like the belief in solipsism, the no free will hypothesis leaves us nowhere to go. And like solipsism, it is something no one truly believes. Everyone feels accountable for their actions and their consequences, whether they like it or not. Better to believe free will is as real as the outside world and get on with it. When talking about free will, it is reasonable to ask, free from what exactly? The believer will say it is freedom from sin. To the Buddhist, it is liberation from the cycles of desire and satiation. Even the non-believer may acknowledge that an addict, whether the addiction is drugs, alcohol, porn, or gambling, is not free in a metaphysical sense. They have chains of dependency that severely limit their freedom of thought and action. How does free will manifest itself then? What are the mechanisms behind the choices we make? In Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he distinguishes between two modes of thought: System 1, fast thinking, and System 2, slow thinking. System 1 thinking corresponds to instinctive or autonomic responses. System 2 thinking is more deliberate and reasoning. An example of System 1 would be the parts of the brain used when an experienced driver is operating a motorized vehicle as if by second nature. An example of System 2 would be all the conscious decision-making thinking done while instinctively operating that same vehicle. This may include choosing how to respond to a question from someone in the passenger seat, how to interpret a news report heard from the car's radio, or calculating how much money you will need to fill your tank if gas is $1.35 a liter. From this, it is easy to say which system requires more thinking. Believers in the no free will hypothesis like to focus on System 1 thinking as evidence because it seems more mechanized. Specialists can see the gears moving within the brain when System 1 thinking is engaged. In experiments, the brain can make choices before the test subject is even consciously aware of having chosen anything. Therefore, no free will. Advertisers are adroit at exploiting System 1 thinking in consumers with such cognitive triggers as the anchoring effect, to place a high price next to a sales price to make the deal appear better, authority biased, using experts and celebrity endorsements to give credibility to a product, and the bandwagon effect, to promote a product as trendy and a must-have item. What used to be called subliminal advertising. Consumers are reduced to dogs salivating at the sound of a dinner bell, or frogs autonomically trying to catch anything that resembles a fly with their tongues. But it is in System 2 where human agency resides, in the much more difficult contemplative life, in Socrates' injunction to know thyself. And it is a freedom everyone has whether they use it or not. People will clamor for access to abortions or illicit drugs as a state-given right, but pass over their God-given right to free thought. As Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard remarked, "How absurd men are! They never use the liberties they have and demand those they do not. They have freedom of thought, but demand freedom of speech." We have the freedom to interpret reality as we choose, what we would call our opinions. The sheer vastness of differing opinions on any subject might be evidence enough to support that degrees of freedom exist in every human mind. Counter-arguments will say the opinions of most people are the product of the influence of stronger and more powerful minds. And who persuades the persuaders? Who knows? It is true that some individuals try to forfeit their burden of freedom out of indolence or convenience and let others do the thinking for them. But they will never truly believe what they are told to say. As power changes hands and social mores change accordingly, so will the stated beliefs of these individuals. Power cannot ultimately compel belief. Might can make something right, but it cannot make it true. Big Brother can force Winston Smith to say 2 plus 2 is 5, but it cannot make it factually correct. Even Nietzsche, after his God had died and power became the final arbitrator of everything, acknowledged the disconnect between truth and power. An all-powerful creator could force the truth upon us, rather than us choosing to seek it out freely, but how worthless would that be? And a love compelled by force is no love at all. And while good and evil do exist, rarely are the choices we make binary. We can live the life of an aesthete, we can pursue an interest in science, or live a hedonistic life. None of this makes anyone a particularly bad or unhappy person per se, but did we miss out on something by not being more open to or delving more deeply into life's many mysteries?